gentlemen, I believe this is episode 19? Negative. Part 1. And it's your boy Icon with a little DC TV going over The Flash. And there are 19 storylines in this episode. And I need to break them down one at a time. Otherwise, I'm going to get confused. So let's let's take the two main storylines, save it for the beginning and the end, and I'll fill in the smaller ones in the middle. So this particular episode starts with the Allen family, the West Allen family, if you will, Bart and Nora. And I have to say, I love Bart and Nora. I love every time the two of them are on camera together. I love when both of them are in action together. I am very much on board with Bart, I guess Bartholomew, that's his name. I'm very on board with Bart and Nora West Allen. And then we're in Star City 2049. And then while Bart and Nora are at the loft and they're playing video games, then Iris West shows up. 2049 Iris West shows up, still hot. Like even 2049 Iris West is still hot. So she's talking to her kids, and then she's talking to Nora because Nora's a reporter now. And then while she's talking to them, she disappears. And then then when she disappears, thank for the love of God, like regular Iris, like 2022 Iris shows up, and then she's just like, "Oh my God, Bart and Nora, is that you?" And then Bart's just like, no, he's just like, "Nora, why is Mom here, and why is she like significantly younger?" I'm like, "She's still hot though." And then they're trying to figure out what's happening. They end up taking her to the Garrett family, because remember on Earth 3. Jay Garrick and, Barry's mom's doppelganger, the two of them got together on Earth 3. And then when Oliver Queen merged the universes together, both Barry's doppelganger parents from Earth 3 ended up on Earth Prime, and no one has still mentioned the fact that, hey, that's Henry Allen. Wasn't he in trouble for murder? Or like, hey, isn't that Nora Allen? Didn't she die like 20 years ago? Like, no one's bringing this up. But anyway, and then like Nora and Bart don't even acknowledge the fact that like, hey, Jay Garrick and like Nora Garrick, you're like my grandparents from Earth 3. Like nobody ever talks about that. So anyway, Grandma Nora, she's talking to Iris and the kids, and she's, going through Iris's body, scanning her body, and she's like, your body's full of negative tachyons. And she said that what's happening to you, like all this jumping in and out of time, she said that your body can't take much more of this, because if it does, your body will give out and you'll die. So now like the kids are freaking out. They're just like, oh, we have to save Mom. And then that's when Nora decides to go to 2022 and go talk to Barry to find out what's going on, with the whole situation, because they're like, clearly something's happening in Mom's present, which is affecting the current future. So Nora runs, and then we end that storyline for now. Killer Frost and Blaine, they built the machine. They put Caitlin in the machine, and they're going to bring back Killer Frost. There's really nothing more to say about that. Killer Frost is coming back in the season finale. She's probably going to come back in the season finale to save the day or save the Flash or Iris at the very last second, and then we'll find out that Killer Frost is going to be the villain of season 9, because it's not going to be as smooth as they're making it out to be. So that was it for the Killer Frost storyline. Cecile's still running around fighting crime, and Joe's not happy about it. And I kind of agree with Joe. And she was just going around. She was just like, yeah, she was like, I beat up a mugger last night, and I was brain blasting this person and this person. And Joe's like, woman, like, this isn't funny. And then, one of the metahuman top that she stole, that she came over to the house, and then she was like, yo, Horton stole my power. And then they were just like, yeah, she was in her neighborhood, and then she thought it would be cool if she had her vertigo power, and then she ended up with her vertigo power. But the problem is Top lost her vertigo power as a result of Cecile using her power. So then Joe's like, all right, I'm going to get y'all some free passes to the metahuman wing of Iron Heights. They go down there and go talk to the leader of the Royal Flush Gang, who had the mind control power. So Cecile basically allowed her to use her mind control power, and then Cecile stole her mind control power. So now Cecile has she has like the vertigo power, and she has the mind control power, and for some reason Cecile's powers have upgraded to the point where she's literally able to steal metahuman power and absorb them for herself. And Top even said, you could possibly be the most powerfulest metahuman in Central City, or in that case the world, because you're able to steal like metahuman power. And I feel like that's going to come into play at some point. The problem here is I don't have an issue with Cecile, quote unquote, leveling up. I don't have an issue with where her power is going. I don't have an issue with her becoming a meta or her being a meta. The problem that I have with it, honestly, and I'm not saying this as like a bad thing against the show or the writing, strictly from a story standpoint, I don't like the fact that she's so happy about it. It's because there's no concern on Cecile whatsoever. She's not even like, oh my God. She's like, I stole someone's power. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do. She's more like, yeah, bitch, you stole your power. And what you gonna do about it? She's like, she was telling Joe, she's like, yep, I was out fighting crime, kicking ass. And I don't like the fact that she's like very like whatever about it, because I feel like that's the problem. It's not so much because like everybody's worried about the wrong thing. Instead of people worrying about the fact that she's able to steal metahuman power, nobody's worried about the fact that she shows no remorse about it. And like I said, that I feel like is going to be a problem later on down the line. But what's going on with her stealing everything with the power, even with Team Flash, they know that she's leveled up to that point. They know that she can steal metahuman power. They know that she's stolen metahuman power. They know she's going out and fighting crime. But because we're dealing with the current crisis and everything that's going on, no one's actually bringing up the fact that she's stealing people's powers. It's more like, yeah, Cecile's coming to help out Team Flash with her metahuman stealing ability. And it's like, so are we not questioning this? Like, so are we not going to say something? Is no one going to talk to Cecile? We're just like, oh, we're just going to let it fly. One problem at a time, people. Can't solve everything in a day. And I feel like that's where we're headed right now. And, you know, because after that, Cecile left Iron Heights to go help Team Flash with the current crisis that was going on. And now we're back on Lian Yu. And while we're on Lian Yu, I'm still fuming over the John Diggle thing. Dion was at Lian Yu talking to Earbar Thawne. And he told Earbar Thawne, he was like, yeah, I'm going to get you your speed back. But he was like, in order for me to get you your speed back, he was like, you need to go. Snaps his fingers. He kills Earbar Thawne. And I thought that was weird. But after he killed him, he absorbed his essence and then Dion dipped. So now Earbar Thawne is dead. You know, later John Diggle's like getting on a plane as we like just as Earbar Thawne is dying, John Diggle's getting on a plane to return back to home to do God knows what. But anyway, well, he's on his way to Smallville to go deal with the Superman situation. So then now, so like Earbar Thawne, he dead, and Dion has his essence. So now that brings us, so all storylines have been present and accounted for. The Iris storyline is on pause for a second. So now this brings us to the Flash. The Flash, he's back home, not worried about his wife. And while Barry's at home, not worried about his wife, he's still helping Mina and Earbart and the other Earbart Thawne. They're still helping Mina train. They gave her a brand new suit. And as I'm going to say this flat out, the Fast Track suit is gorgeous. She looks gorgeous in the suit. The suit is everything. With the short haircut and the way it fits her, it's perfect. That being said, I was not a fan of it when she actually put the mask and the helmet on, because now it looked weird. Like there's a reason why Batgirl, when Batgirl wears the cowl, there's a reason why Batgirl has a cutout in the back of her cowl that lets her hair fall out of the cowl, because with all that hair trapped under that mask, it just looks weird. It would have been better if they would have given her a mask that only covered her face up to like this part. So at least her, just like with Wally, so at least her hair can fall out of, the thing, and it doesn't have to be bunched up in the mask. So anyway, so she's doing the training. She's pushing herself too hard. She gets upset because she was overdoing it, and then she runs to go clear her head. The Flash goes to talk to her, and it was only a matter of time. Once a season, Barry reveals his identity to somebody. This season, he did it to Mia. So when Mia was just like, oh, I'll never be as good as you, Flash. I'll never be as good of a hero as the Flash. Motherfucker took off his mask again. And then he was like, hi, I'm Barry Allen, CSI, and I also own Star Labs. And then she's like, oh my God, like the Flash, like you're just a regular guy. And I'm like, well, thanks. So then she's just like, well, if a regular guy, thanks, can be the Flash, she was like, I'll give it another try. So she goes back to give it another try. So they're working things out while Mina and Earbart Thawne are at her lab trying to work on her speed. That's when questions finally got answered and the forces returned, like the Still Force, the Psych Force, and the Strength Force. And when all three of them showed up at the same time, I looked at the Psych Force and I looked at the Strength Force, and I'm like, where the hell have y'all been all season? Because Dion's pretty much been holding it down by himself since the pandemic. We haven't even used the other two forces. They've made no appearances on this show in like 2 seasons. Now all of a sudden y'all just popped up like it's all gravy. But anyway, so now the three of them are there, and they're just like, oh, we've been looking for you, Earbard, and we've come to kill your ass. And Fast Track tries to save him. Dion uses his power, doesn't work. The Flash shows up. He ends up using his power to freeze the Flash, but the Flash is so powerful, he broke through Dion's, stillness and blasted the forces and knocked him to Kingdom Come. And then after that, that's when they're just like, oh, prices gotta be paid, Flash, and we coming for your ass. Now, let me just explain all this for a second, because we finally got answers in the whole negative Speed Force thing. It turns out that in the Armageddon crossover in episode 5 of this season of The Flash, episode 5 this season of The Flash, when they captured Earbart Thawne, In order to save Eobard Thawne's life, because he was going to get erased from existence, Barry severed his connection to the negative speed force. That's when he was like, "You took my speed." So he severed his connection. Once he severed his connection from the negative speed force, apparently the negatives, because remember, these are avatars, like Dion, Amir, I think his name was Amir, and the other girl, they're regular people that are avatars for these forces. These forces, like, they use their power through them to communicate. There was a negative speed force avatar that was using Eobard Thawne as, as the transition point from the negative speed force through like regular existence. Because Barry severed that connection, according to them, the negative speed force died, or the negative speed force is weak and is weak as hell. Now, because of that, the other three forces, the negative still force, negative strength force, and negative psych force, they were upset because of what the Flash did, because it hurt the negative speed force. So they set up a plan where they infected Iris with a time sickness to have her fluctuating through time. And now they're going around killing all the Eobard Thawnes that exist throughout time and space. And they're absorbing all of their energy and absorbing all of their power. And they're trying to get revenge on the Flash for killing the negative speed force. But they said that because the negative speed force is gone, they're not at full strength, but they can still take down the Flash. So then they were just like, "Oh, we'll be back, Flash," and then they disappear. So now the Flash, he's talking to Mina, he's talking to Eobard, and then they're trying to get some more help here. Barry ends up coming up with an idea to allow Mina to share her speed with Eobard Thawne. And I immediately thought that was a bad idea, because I was like, the moment Eobard Thawne gets his speed back, he's most likely going to get his memories back, and he's going to remember he's the reverse Flash and try to kill everybody. Thankfully, I was wrong. So Barry's speech worked. Barry was able to help Mina transfer, I guess, half or some of her speed force into Eobard Thawne. While they were doing all that, when the negative forces came back, Chester, Allegra, and Cecile met them at the door and was going to stop them from entering the room. And I was just like, why? Why is Chester here? I mean, I know why Allegra's here. I can accept Cecile being here now because she got stronger. Why is Chester here? Chester has become Mr. Incredible of the Flash. Like, if you remember Arrow and, Mr. Incredible from Arrow, Chester is now Mr. Incredible. Like, that's who Chester is right now. He's got the gadgets and everything. I mean, well, he can't fight like Mr. Incredible can, but that's it. They basically substituted the character. That's who he reminded me of, because Chester even had on his army pants. He had his cargo pants with his combat boots and everything. So the three of them fight the forces, and they did a decent job. Cecile actually kept the negative still force at bay. Chester came up with a good idea. Only Allegra kind of struggled a little bit, but but they were defeated by the forces, because the forces, they're basically gods. And then after they were defeated, the Flash sped them out of harm's way. And then both Mina and Eobard Thawne, all dressed in costumes, showed up, and now the three of them fought the other three. While they're fighting them, it's basically like going back and forth. They're not able to get the advantage. Nobody can get the advantage. And then Barry's like, "Screw it, I'm just going to blast them with all the electricity that I got." So Barry's like, "Yo, keep them distracted." So the two of them end up running around, like the negative forces really fast. Barry goes and does a lap around the world, and then just when Barry comes back, he wound up the pitch, and he was about to throw all that electricity, and he was basically going to explode and blast the negative forces and try to kill him. It was at that moment where Iris in the future started wigging out. And all the stuff that the negative forces were doing were running through Iris's mind and going through her head. She was seeing all these images, and then she said, these aren't random images. These are events that actually happened. Iris said that the target was never Eobard Thawne. The target isn't the Flash. She was just like the person. She said the sacrifice that the forces were talking about, and then she disappeared. When Iris reappeared, she appeared directly in the path of the lightning bolt that the Flash just threw at the negative forces. The electricity blasted Iris. She flew 30 feet back, and when Barry held her in her arms, I clutched my pearls, and then Dion snapped his fingers, Iris disappeared, and I immediately had a heart attack, because I was like, you will not kill Iris West on this show. I remember in season 2 when Savitar actually stabbed Iris through the heart. I swear to God, I almost quit the show when that happened. But then I had to reel it in, and the only thing that stopped me from losing my collective shit, because like I said, y'all get rid of Iris West, it's a wrap. The only thing that stopped me from losing my collective shit, I noticed the kids were still there. And if Iris is truly gone, if Iris is truly dead, then Nora and Bart should cease to exist. Because if Iris dies in 2022, her and Barry will never have relations, and they will never birth children in the future. So as long as Nora and Bart are still around, I still have hope that Iris West can be saved. And with that being said, I will not lose my collective ish. So she disappeared. Oh no. After she disappeared, you know, that's when Dion has said, he was just like, yeah, Flash, I told you, you pay for what you did, and sacrifices is going to be made. And he's like, one more sacrifice to go. And then he snapped his fingers again. The three of them disappeared. And then blonde earbard Thawne started having a heart attack. And then he was screaming. He was like, something's wrong, something's wrong. Then he grabbed his face and tore his own skin into. And then I guess like all the essences of all the different speed force, of all the different earbards that the forces were collecting all this time, they used that to resurrect the true earbard Thawne avatar. Because like they said, because even when they saw blonde earbard Thawne earlier, the strength force said, you're not the avatar, you being here just makes us weak. Because the original earbard Thawne, who is the original avatar of the negative speed force, he made so many copies and clones of himself throughout the course of history. Those clones aren't like the true avatar, they're just a copy of the avatar. So the negative forces were going around killing all of them and collecting all their power so they can bring back the original avatar, which was the earbard Thawne that Barry severed his speed from. So when he ripped his skin off, it went from being blonde earbard Thawne to OG Wells earbard Thawne, and then he was like, thanks for the resurrection, Flash. And that was some creepy cool ass shit. Mia screamed at the top of her lungs, she pulled the Lois Lane, and then after that, that's how the episode ended, with Barry crying over the fact that Iris died. But I swear she better be back, otherwise I'm done. And that was it. And thank you for tuning in. I am very, very interested in what's about to happen next, because Iris better be back. And they said she was in a different timeline. They said she was erased from this timeline, which means that there's a chance for her to come back. There is the Killer Frost storyline, which is taking a small back burner. Like, they give you enough of the Killer Frost storyline to remind you that it's still a thing, but enough to make you forget by the time the episode is over. So when Killer Frost does come back, you're gonna be like, oh snap, it's Killer Frost. You know, but Cecile's power still means something. You know, what's going on with the kids, because the kids are gonna come from the future to the present, find out what happened to their mama. It's gonna be this whole big thing. But I have no idea how this is going to end. I have no prediction for how this is going to end. I'm just going to enjoy the ride and see what happens. But share your questions, comments, and concerns down below. You know, what do you think about what's going on with the Flash? What do you think about Cecile? What do you think about Killer Frost? What do you think about, you know, like the Mia situation, because Mia still got her speed? What do you think about the Iris situation? Share all that stuff, all this Flash goodness, and we will talk about it as we conclude in the season finale next week. Hit me up on Twitter and or Instagram, always on YouTube, where you can leave your questions, comments, and concerns. Hit the notification bell, because I got Superman and Lois on the channel, which Superman and Lois and the Flash will have their season finales at the exact same time. And I'm also doing Miss Marvel for you Marvel fans. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Watch out for the negative speed force. Keep them tachyons intact. And until next week, when we conclude the Flash, I'm out this